Shalom, giving all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Chachadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who will well. Sincere shalom to all you Akim who be pushing this word around the globe in truth and faith and in sincerity. We are the true Hebrew Israelites, the real Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Hispanics, and Latinos. We are the true descendants of the man in the Bible who is named Israel. That's why we are the Israelites. The true Israelites are not the people who are currently occupying the land of Israel at the moment. Those are actually Edomites, Ashkenaz, tribe of Ashkenaz, Edomites. They're not the real Jews, and that can be proven by reading Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9, and Revelation chapter 3 and verse 9, so I'm going to get them for edification's sake. Let me start with Revelation 1. I want to read Revelation chapter 1 and verse 3. This says, "Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand." So basically, if you read these words of the Holy Bible, it's a blessing, but not many people read these words, hence why they don't know what's going on in the world, because they're not occupied in prophecy. So Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9 states, "This is Yahushua speaking, who the one ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, because Yahweh is the true name of the one true God of the Bible, Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahweh Shai, the one the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ." They have Hebrew names because Hebrew is the Lashon Kodash, which is Holy Tongue, the original language. So this is Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9, and it says, "I know thy works, tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich." Now that's speaking to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, West Africans, so on and so forth. This is speaking to you true Israelites. It says, "I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan." You see, so that's a cold cut to you so-called Israelis, you fake Jews. You know, you're not the true Israelites. So the Bible in Revelation 2 and 9 calls you out. Not only that, Revelation chapter 3 and verse 9 calls you out, and it says, once again, Yahushua speaking, hence why the words are in red text. It says, "I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, that no man can shut it." So like I started from the wrong verse. Verse 9. "Behold, I'll make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee." Now I want to get another precept, going back to Deuteronomy 28, which goes through the curses. 16. Curses that would come upon the Israelites if they didn't keep Yahweh's commandments. And that's how you can tell who the true people of the Lord are on the earth today, because they fit the curses stated in Deuteronomy chapter 28. So let's get this. I'm going to start from Deuteronomy 28 and 15. I'm going to go right on down throughout the curses, okay? This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 15. It says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord," which when you see the word Lord in all caps in the Hebrew, it would say Yahweh there. So I'm going to read it as it should be. Starting again, Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to do all of his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shall thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shall thou be when thou goest out. Yahweh shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, in all that thou settest thine hand to do, until thou be destroyed, until thou perish away quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me." Now, if you look around the world, who are the people who are predominantly the last hired, the first fired? Who are the people that don't usually have their own businesses, or if they do have their businesses, they don't usually last very long, because we're under these curses. Us Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, we're all under these curses. Now, this doesn't just apply to the peoples that I just mentioned. It also applies to any of you people who may look like the heathen, but this word resonates, and you believe it through faith and sincerity, because Israel has been scattered amongst all nations. So you're going to get Israelites who look like all peoples. This isn't a black only thing. In fact, this isn't even about skin color. It's about seed lines, because Numbers 18 and 21 states that it's lucky if I'm still on scripture, but Numbers 18 and 21, I think it is, states that your lineage goes by the house of your father. Yeah, so who your father was determines your nationality, and this is something that cannot be changed. So let's continue with Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 21. It says, Yahweh shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. Yahweh shall smite thee with consumption, and with fever, and with an inflammation, and with extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and it shall pursue thee until thou perish. Now you can look at some of the certain curses, or I should say illnesses, that so-called Negroes are more prone to than other nationalities. If I'm not mistaken, I think one of them is sickle cell. That's one of the curses from Yahweh. So continuing on, it says, and thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. And Yahweh shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. Yahweh shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. See, that precept touches upon what I just said about how Israel has been scattered amongst all nations through our various captivities. So therefore you're going to get Israelites who look like so-called Ammonites, or so-called Moabites, or so-called Syrians, or even so-called Edomites. This is all through the Spirit. It's not about the flesh. So it says, and thy carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. Now that scripture reminds you of when Jake used to be lynched in America. The scriptures say, "Cursed is the man that hangeth from a tree." And when you hang someone from a tree, you're not supposed to just leave their body there. You're supposed to take it down. I think it's before sunset or something like that. But basically, in slavery, Edomites were lynching Jake and just leaving them there, hanging from the trees. This is why the birds will come and peck out their eyes or eat their flesh. This is what this curse is talking about. So verse Deuteronomy 28 and 27, it says, Yahweh will smite you with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch whereof thou cannot be healed. Deuteronomy 28 and 28 says, Yahweh shall smite thee with madness, and blindness, and astonishment of heart. And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. Again, that goes into why I said, Jake businesses don't tend to usually prosper. And, we don't even have a seat in the United Nations, us Israelites. And we don't own manufacturing plants. We don't own industries. Yeah, you've got a few Jake celebrities who might have a little bit of money. Let's say you own you make a record or whatever, but who's the one who's printing those CDs? Who's the one who owns all the publishing rights in most cases? I know there are some Jakes who do own their publishing and stuff, but for the most cases, the music industry is run by the so-called Jews. Just like the Hollywood film industry and every other industry, fashion, sports, all these industries are owned by, mostly so-called Jews. So, verse 28 and 30, it says, Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. And that's very true, because all of these women out here, none of them, unless you're very young and you're meeting your wife as a child, chances are your woman's had multiple men before she's been with you. And that's off according to the scriptures, because a woman is only supposed to have one partner, whereas a man can have multiple wives so long as the woman he takes is a virgin. But in the society, they call that, is it bigamy or polygamy? I can't remember, one of those two. If a man takes more than one wife, this is shunned in this society, when in fact that's actually the way it's supposed to be. And women are uplifted for being sluts and whores, when that's contrary to the way of the Bible, because none of these women can present the tokens of their virginity anymore. So all of these marriages are nothing short of adultery, which is why James 4:4 states that ye adulterers and adulteresses, know you not that friendship of the world is enmity with Yahweh? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Roughly paraphrasing. So let's continue on in this. It says, Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Again, for most parts, Jake don't own land. We're not, for the most cases, we're not landlords. We're all living in rented apartments or, rented flats and shit, living flipping side by side and on top of each other, when the scriptures say that, you're not supposed to join house to house. You're supposed to leave a bit of distance between the houses. But that's going on to another point. Let's continue on with the curses. Let me read from Deuteronomy 28 and 30 again. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Again, in slavery, Jake was the one doing all the work in the field, but we didn't reap the rewards of our labour. It was Esau, Edom, the slave masters who took the rewards of our free labour. That's why they're going to have to pay back and double. So it says, Deuteronomy 28 and 31, Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored unto thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt not have to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Now tell me, when in history did that happen to those fake Jews? You see, it never happened. They don't fit these curses. But this happened to the Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans. These curses, our children were separated from us during slavery and sold to other peoples. This happened both to the northern and the southern kingdoms of Israel. Northern kingdom being, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Simeon, those northern kingdom tribes which are in the Americas, which was called Asareth, and the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. We were sold into the transatlantic slave trade and put into chattel slavery. So let's continue on. It says, Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. The fruit of thy land and all thy labours shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed always, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Yahweh shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed, from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. Yahweh shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou know nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Again, going back when we were sold into slavery and we were forbidden to read our Bible. Therefore, we can discontinued from our heritage. Now you've got Jake, be it Northern Kingdom, Southern Kingdom, whatever. They're all worshipping false Jesus, false God, worshipping the white Jesus, which is actually Serapis Christus and Caesar Borgia, the image of the white Jesus, rather than coming back to the true truth of our Saviour, which is Yahushua, who was a so-called Negro according to the scriptures, just as Yahweh is a so-called Negro with a white woolly afro. Those are the true images of the ultimate being Yahweh, and the second ultimate being Yahushua, his son. So let's continue. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither Yahweh shall lead thee. Now, us being called so-called black people, or Hispanics, or Mexicans, or Negroes, niggers, spics, wetbacks, all these other names, these are all bywords. We're really Israelites. So, for example, the Mexicans are actually Israelites from the tribe of Issachar. They're not Mexicans. We wasn't Indians, because the word Indian means savage. So when they say, "Oh, you're a West Indian," like in my case, I suppose I'd be classed as a so-called West Indian. I'm not a West savage. I'm an Israelite. Possibly from the tribe of Benjamin, or maybe I'm from the tribe of Judah or Levi. I don't know, but all I know is that I'm an Israelite. So continuing on, when have the Jews ever been proverbs and bywords? It doesn't really happen. They don't fulfill the curses, therefore they don't fit the prophecies. It says in Deuteronomy 28 and 38, Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather it but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but neither drink of the wine, nor gather the grapes, for the worm shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olives shall cast their fruit. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Again, that goes back when we was into slavery, when we had sons and daughters. Our sons and daughters were sold in auction blocks to other peoples, and you wouldn't see them again. But even in this day and age, if you have a child in this society, you really don't have control over your child. The government controls your child. Therefore, if you don't send your child to school, the government will come in and try and take your kid from you. If you try and discipline your child, as the scriptures say, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Spare the rod, spoil the child. If you try and do that in the society, social services will come in and say, "Oh, you're abusing your kid. We're taking it from you." When really the real child abuse is happening in the public school system, where you've got transvestites, homosexuals, lesbians, all manner of people coming in there trying to put poison into your child's mind to think that being a homosexual is okay, or being a transgender is okay, or being a transvestite, or any other kind of madness. Basically, these schools, if you've got an Israelite kid, you have to send your kid to school to mix them with these heathens, and they're going to be learning all the ways and the customs of the heathens. And more likely than not, when your child's at school, they're going to be influenced by what they're surrounded with. So, you really don't have control of your children in this society. So that's another fulfillment of those curses. And it says, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. And thy trees and thy fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. And the stranger that is within thee shall get up above over thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Again, when you look at Jake's communities, who are the people who own all the shops in those communities? It's usually Elam, they're in the corner shops or whatever, or the chicken shops or stuff like that. Or even, you want to buy products for your hair. In most cases, it's Elamites or Ishmaelites, where I'm from at least anyway, selling the so-called black hair products. We don't own our own businesses. We have to go to the heathen for the want of all things. And these heathens are like, there's a scripture where it says, they came and licked up the wounds, like you're roughly paraphrasing. That's what these heathen are doing. They're basically making money off Jake being in a lower state. When I say Jake, I'm talking about Israelites, because Jake is a short way of saying Jacob. Jacob is the man whose name became Israel. So let's move on. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. And that's, again, Esau, man. Esau owns all these banks. A lot of these banks made their money off this transatlantic slave trade. So, like, when you want to buy a house or whatever, who do you have to go to for a loan? If you're a kid and you want to go to a university, which I don't advise any Jakes go into the university system because it's bullshit. But if you want to go to university, you're going to have to take out a loan. Who are you taking out this loan from? Esau. It's just putting you into more debt to be a slave to his system. So, Deuteronomy 28:45, and it says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not to the voice of Yahweh, thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee, now here's the point of this whole lesson, Deuteronomy 28:46, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. See, so that's how you can, when you know these curses, you can look and you can see which peoples in the world fall under these curses. And you'll see it's the Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, West Africans for the most part. That's how you know who the true Israelites are, because the fake Jews who are running around the land of Israel right now, they don't fulfill these curses and these prophecies. So, Deuteronomy 28:47, because thou servest not Yahweh thy power with joyfulness and gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Therefore shall thou serve thine enemies which Yahweh shall send against thee. Now if you want to know who the enemies of Israel are, all you need to do is read Psalms chapter 83. That goes into who the enemies of Israel are, which is basically all these 17 other nations, but the chief one being Esau, Edom, which is what which you would class as you so-called white people today. You're not white, you're red. Because your blood shows forth through your skin. The terms black people and white people they don't mean anything, because Yahweh didn't create a nation called white, and he didn't create a nation called black. He created Israelites, and he created Edomites, and he created 16 other nations. Yeah? So, now here's another good point. Deuteronomy 28:48. Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies which Yahweh shall send against thee, in hunger, in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Now tell me, when in history did those fake Jews have yokes of irons put around their neck and sold into slavery? It never happened. If you go to Google and you type up yoke of iron, what will you see? You're going to see a so-called Negro with yokes of irons around their neck, which is the so-called Negro is really, it is the Israelites. You know, that happened to us. And it says Deuteronomy 28:49, Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee, far from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And that's a prophecy against you Edomites, because I believe it's in the book of Obadiah. It says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle. And if you look back in the Roman Empire, what was the symbol of the Roman Empire? The eagle. Just as the same way it's the symbol of America today, the eagle. So that's talking about you Edomites. It says, Deuteronomy 28:50, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall show not regard to the persons of the old, nor shew favour unto the young. Now that happened in 70 AD when Jerusalem was sieged by the Romans. It also happened when Cristobal Colon, the one the world ignorantly calls Christopher Columbus, who was lifted up as a so-called hero, when he went over to the Americas, this is exactly what he done. Deuteronomy 28:50, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shew favour to the young. And ye shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land. They took America, they stole it, until thou be destroyed. That's why you got Gad all up in the reservations in America. You got Issacharites in the Mexicans. They can't even enter the United States. You know, there's all this border control bullshit, you know, when it's really their land. Going on, it says, we shall also not leave thee either corn, wine, nor oil, or the increase of thy kine, or the flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. Because the scriptures say, you know, Esau is, he can never be satisfied. No matter how much they get, they always want more. Deuteronomy 28:52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou hast trusted, throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, throughout all thy land which Yahweh thy power hath given thee. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, and the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which Yahweh thy power hath given thee, in the siege and in the straitness whereof thine enemies shall distress thee. That happened in 70 AD. 54, it's going to happen again during Jacob's trouble. Deuteronomy 28:54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil towards his brother. That's why you've got so-called black on black crime, they call it. You know, Jake hates Jake. Jake is shooting each other, killing each other in the streets. And, you know, nobody's looking at this and asking themselves why. The reason why is because of these curses, and also the way that society has been socially engineered to keep Jake at the bottom and desperate, which has all been done by Esau, Edom. Yep. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil towards his brother, and towards the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children which he shall leave. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he have nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in all thy gates. And the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not venture to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil towards the husband of her bosom, and towards her son, and towards her daughter. That's why you got these nigger women just basically acting like niggers. You know, they I don't need a man, I can do bad all by myself, all this kind of shit. You know, Esau's enabled these women to basically kick the man out of the house. And then when you kick the man out of the house, the children ain't got no disciplinarian in the house, because these women can't raise men. I mean, all you got to do is read the Willie Lynch letter to see how this has all been socially engineered to be this way. You know, it's the fucking curses we're under, which, Lord willing, Yahweh Ratazar, this all will be put to an end soon when Yahweh Shai returns, and righteousness is put back upon the earth rather than wickedness. Deuteronomy 28:57, it says, and towards her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for the want of all things, secretly in the siege and the straitness, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. Deuteronomy 28:58 says, If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fearest the glorious and fearful name of Yahweh thy power, then Yahweh will make the plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even the great plagues, and of a long continuance, and a sore sickness of long continuance. And yeah, we've been under these curses for a very long time. Deuteronomy 28:50 and 60, Salakia. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. And also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, then will the Yahweh bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. And you shall be left few in number, whereas you were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of Yahweh thy power. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you, as Yahweh rejoiced over you, Slakia, to do you good, and to multiply you, so Yahweh will rejoice over you, to destroy you, and to bring you to naught, and ye shall be plucked off the land whether thou goest to possess it. And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people. Again, this goes back to what I said, that it's not about your skin tone, it's about your seed line, which determines what your nationality is. This verse proves it. It says, And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there shall thou serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shall thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart, and a failing of eyes, and a sorrow of mind. Deuteronomy 28:66, and it says, And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. Deuteronomy 28:67, And in the morning thou shalt say, Would power it were heaven, Salaka. In the morning thou shalt say, Would power it were even, and even at night shall thou say, Would power it were morning, for the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Deuteronomy 28:68, and this is the closing verse. It says, And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt. The word Egypt means house of bondage. Yeah? Again with ships. Now, if you remember where Israel is compared to Egypt, all you've got to do is travel south, and you'll be in Egypt from Israel. You don't need a ship to travel into Egypt from Israel. So that proves that this Egypt that he's speaking of is the new Egypt, which is America, and you have to travel there via ships, which is why on the back of the American dollar bill you have the symbol of Egypt, which is the pyramid, yeah. And this is all prophecy here, and this never happened to the so-called Jews. They were never carried to the Americas with yokes of iron around their neck on boats in chattel slavery. They weren't taken to the Americas in that way, yeah. So it says, And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by whereof I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again. Talking about the land of Israel, our homeland, our true inheritance. And ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And when it says no man shall buy you, it means no man shall redeem you. Now, this is very true, because we are still in our slavery state. We're still in captivity under our enemies, and no man is going to free us. The only person that can free us from this bondage is Yahweh Shai. And Yahweh Shai said, I will not meet thee as a man. So Yahweh Shai is coming back as a spiritual power, as a force, in order to bring his people out of Egypt. Let me close out with Micah 2:10 for edification's sake. This is the book of Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. And it says, Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction. So that's talking about this world that we're currently in. We're supposed to depart from it, because we're not supposed to have rest here. We're only going to get rest when Yahweh Shai comes back, Lord willing, and he leads us into the kingdom, which will be an everlasting kingdom, which will be on this earth, which will be known as the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven is only for you Israelites, not for any of you heathens. So salvation isn't for you other heathens, yeah? Get that straight. So on that note, I've made this lesson long enough. I want to give all praise, honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Hachadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to all you Arkim who are pushing this word around the world in faith and truth and in sincerity. Until the next time I'm able to do a lesson, Lord willing, I say Shalom.